Hey everybody. Well, my dog's being a big baby and wanting his neck scratched, so you'll probably hear the jingle of the collar and everything else in the background. Um, he's just being really needy. Um, I want to just sort of share a personal story from last night. Um, so, I'm divorced and remarried, and last night was my son's band recital or Christmas concert, whatever you want to call it. Um, So it's currently not my visitation time with him. It happened on my ex's time. So I went to the concert along with my wife and my two daughters. Right. So his mother was there with her husband. Um, he's the one that she was having an affair with while we were married, and I found out about the affair. I got divorced, left, um, got remarried, discovered the whole narcissism and borderline thing. And generally, the shoe fits for her. She's not diagnosed, and I don't try to armchair diagnose her. But I've found that I'll suffice it to say, the management techniques for managing a narcissistic partner, spouse, or family member seem to work well in handling her. So that's what I do. And we'll leave it at that. So, um, it's always interesting. You never really know what's going to happen when you put a narcissist in a situation that they cannot control. Um, it can lead to anxiety or anger or any number of negative expressions. So here's what happened. We showed up to the concert and we got there on time, but it was a small auditorium with a lot of parents. And so even though we got there 15 minutes early, it was already standing room only. So we went to where there was space, which would be on the far side of the auditorium, furthest from the entrance. And so we're over there and got my two daughters with me, had my wife with me. We're waiting for the show to start. And I guess we were there about 15 minutes before before I realized that my ex and her husband were like right there in the chairs where I guess they got there early enough to get a seat. I mean, there's only two of them, right? So it's hard to find a row of four empty chairs, right? But they had apparently been there the whole time, and we had never noticed. But then once I took notice, I noticed that every so often she would do this type thing, right? Oh God, you know. But you know, we watched the whole performance. Everything went well, um, and I was kind of, I wouldn't say dreading, but just sort of had high anticipation for something's going to happen at the end of this concert. I don't know what it is, but we'll see. And you know, it'll be humorous. You know, and my wife knows the situation. You know, she's well prepared. You know, and so when the concert was over, everybody, you know, all the parents start standing up and everybody's dismissing and all of that. And somehow or another, my wife and I missed um, the stepfather's exit from the auditorium. He's a big guy, and whenever I say big, I mean he is like 6'5", 6'6", easily 300 plus, big dude. Um, you know, sitting in those little small chairs. I mean, the chair that he was in was comically small for him. He's a big guy, right? Looked like a circus bear on a bicycle, kind of thing. So he's a big guy, and somehow we just didn't notice this enormous man get up and leave. And so we're sort of confused by that. And it's like, well, where did he go? Right? Because she's still here. Like my son is still here. He go to the bathroom. So he was like gone and never showed back up. But that was interesting. And so after everything was everything was done, my son, he's a percussionist, right? So with percussion, they have a lot of equipment they have to move, like, the bass drums, all the timpanis, the xylophone, the marimba, the vibraphone, or all the things. So we're all just hanging out, and my ex is over in her chair, and she gets up and she moves over to some other side out of the chairs because they're starting to fold up the chairs, etc. So my son comes down off the stage and sees me and his sisters before he sees his mom. But by that time, he'd already made eye contact with his sisters and waved, and so he was coming over, and he just blew right past my ex and went straight to his sisters. And of course, it was a happy reunion of all the children just together and hugging and playing, and it melted my heart. And I could just feel the fuck you waves coming from my ex. She was wearing her mask. She had that was her, off in a corner just stewing. And but whatever, I ignored it. My wife ignored it. We just let the kids be the kids, and my son talked to me some, talked to the girls some, and let them be them. And then sure enough, after a few minutes of seeing this happening, my ex does a waddle by. She comes waddling up and she's like, "Okay, Hayden, it's gonna be time to go in just a minute now." And just keeps on walking like she was on a damn conveyor belt, right? So it's just like, well, I'm not gonna do it. You can just imagine it. My dog's right there on the floor. I can't step over him. Anyways. Be time to go now. Any minute now. And she just goes off over there. Right? And my son was just like, yeah, just kept on with his sisters, and after a few minutes, we're like, okay, Hayden, it's like, you need to go over there with your mom because we can feel the radiation, And so, we said bye, and he went off with his mom, and, we went walking out towards the parking lot. And that's when we saw the homeboy. She had sent him to go get the car and pull it around to the curb. And it's already a small parking lot. It's like 3 rows. It's not a big parking lot. So I don't know how far away he must have parked. But it's still on school campus. So she just sent him off to go retrieve the car and pull it around like a valet. And so when we walked out, we saw this and we were like, oh wow. Right? So that's interesting, right? I will say this about my ex. It's always hard to find something good to say about somebody that has caused so much drama and turmoil and pain in your life. But one of the things that I can appreciate, whether it's a good intention or not, is that she takes care to make sure that me and the stepdad never meet and never talk. And yes, that may very well be to protect her ass and keep me from actually telling him the truth about certain things. But on the other hand, in the wake of this whole Chad Reed shooting from Lubbock, Texas, where there was a stepdad shot the biological dad over some shenanigans involving child visitation, they were apparently withholding the children from the biological dad. Didn't tell him. Biological dad goes to the school to pick up his kids. His kids are not there. Goes over to his ex's house to see about the kids. Ex tells him that the kids are not there, that they're over at somebody else's house because the kids weren't feeling well. Never gave this dad any kind of heads up, right? And so while he's there angry, having an argument with his ex, stepdad tells him to leave, gets butthurt that he won't leave, comes out with a gun, a struggle ensues, and it ends up with the biological father shot dead by the stepdad. Not a good move for a stepdad to make, by the way. That's not going to win you any points. with your wife and her biological children. Um, so, there is, in light of that, I mean, it's something that I can appreciate. Hey, he and I will probably never ever meet or talk or anything, and, that's fine. He's probably never ever going to end up shooting me either for all of her shenanigans, which is also fine. So that makes me happy. Um, but it's interesting with the way narcissism works and seeing the dynamic there. She when we were married, she would always say she was always apologizing for having control issues and being controlling. And I was so laid back and easygoing. It's just like, no, it matters more to you than me, whatever, right? I'm sorry, I have such control issues. And I was like, I don't care because I was literally so laid back. It's like, well, whatever. But the thing is if it had been like just me there and without my wife and my daughters, I know it would have gone a little differently, I suspect, because I've been to other Christmas concerts where it's gone very differently. She would have just come up and snatched my son away from me, right? Because she has done that before. She's gone up when it was just me and my daughters and the kids were talking, and she walked up and just grabbed my son by the hand and said, okay, let's go, and just ripped him away unceremoniously. But my wife represents something that she absolutely cannot control because she does not know my wife at all. She knows that my wife does not like her. And she doesn't have any inroads for manipulation whatsoever with my wife. She doesn't know what to do with that. So all she could do would be to do a drive-by real quick. Okay, Hayden, it's about time to go. And just keep on going. And send stepdad out to go pull the car out of, retrieve the car and wait. Very, just, the whole thing to me now is comical. Because it's just, okay, like she's going to be weird. And that's how I view it now. All right, we're going to go have a family event. My son's going to be there, and his weird mom is going to be there doing weird mother shit. And that's really about the right attitude to have, at least in my case. In your case, I think it's a viewpoint worth exploring. View them as weird. A weird person doing weird person shit, right? It's not my fault. It's like, and I've been teaching my son this, and I see him finally internalizing these lessons. Where I tell him, adults are just going to be adults. They're going to have their adult feelings. You, as a child, it is never your fault for an adult's failure to regulate their own emotions, right? So children are responsible for their own emotions, and adults tell children all the time, stop crying, don't, stop fussing, stop fighting, stop yelling, stop this, stop that, right? Adults expect children to regulate their emotions on command. But then adults also seem to expect children to manage their emotional state too. Like, you're really hurting my feelings, like, why would you do that, right? And there have been instances where, my ex and her stepdad have had some explosive episodes around him, and he felt like it was his fault. I say her feelings are not your responsibility. They are her responsibility, right? And I said, and all this screaming and yelling that they do, all they can be is loud and annoying. Because if they ever go any step further and touch a hair on your head, I'm sending their ass to prison. So and this is what I tell him, it's like, You focus on yourself and your happiness, right? And just understand that you're not her manager. That is something that she needs to work on. Um, and and I saw it last night for the first time, where he did what he wanted to do, what made him happy, spending time with his sisters, acknowledged his mother, but still spent time with his sisters because that's what he wanted to do and that's where he wanted to be. Because at the end of the night, he's still going home with his mother. So he just took some time out with his sisters. And I think this has been the first exercise of his, or self exercise of his freedom and independence. So I'm hoping this is a new chapter for him and us and everything else. So, anyways, that's all the story I got. I just wanted to share it with you guys. Sound off in the comments as always. Do please like, comment, or share. And I'll see y'all on the next one. Here we go.